Hello, everyone, and welcome to Tabor Talk. I'm your host, Michael Tabor. So I haven't done a video in like 3 days. Okay, so I'm outside for this one. It's not freezing out. It's January 12th. And yeah, it's kind of windy and all that. But okay, so getting right into this, I'm just going to play a clip here from David Pakman. I haven't done this in a little while. I'm a big fan of David Pakman, and he's talking about the Trump cult. David explains that he received a call from some guy who was offended, didn't like the fact that, hey, you're in a cult. And then he talks about there are three categories that these Trumpists fall in, right? So you have ignorant people, you have the people who are cognitively limited, and then you have people who are bad people. So let me just get right into it. Here's David Pakman, and boy, what a nice day. I'm just going to pan a little bit, and there you go.
We have a voicemail number. That number is 2192 David P. Yesterday, I talked about the cult-like nature of Trumpists, both a cult of personality around Trump, but also the very cult-like behavior of many of Trump's followers, which includes always finding reasons why the bad things that Trump does aren't really bad, ignoring information about bad things that Donald Trump does. We talked about it all before. I got a voicemail yesterday from a Trumpist who says he is not pleased with me making the cultist analogy. Take a listen to this.
Yeah, I just watched your show where you lambasted Tucker Carlson, and I'm a Trump supporter, and there are 62 million of us, or 60 million of us.
Yeah.
And you're really condescending and insulting to us that we're not smart enough to think on our own, or how we're going to pay for something. I mean, it's ridiculous the way you talk about us, that we're a cult. Are you kidding me? There's no one's going to put me in a cult. No politician is going to brainwash me into voting for them.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that's important to understand about cults is nobody who's in a cult thinks they're in a cult until sometimes after they've left the cult. No one who is brainwashed believes that they have been brainwashed, because knowing you've been brainwashed would be an antidote to the brainwashing. And the reality is, a lot of people who voted for Trump are ignorant people. I've said before, there's ignorant people on all sides of the political spectrum. If someone in an uninformed way votes for a Democrat or a progressive or whatever, it's not any less informed than an ignorant Republican voter. I would be glad if they end up making the right decision, but there's uninformed and ignorant voters on both sides. But as I said before, there are basically three categories of people who voted for Donald Trump. And I know this pisses a lot of people off. There are ignorant people, right? People who just didn't know what they were voting for. They didn't understand. They either fell for things Trump said that were impossible and said, this is why I'm going to vote for the guy, without realizing that they were impossible promises, or they just don't pay attention to politics. Ignorance to some degree. There are people who are cognitively limited. And that, again, I'm not insulting anybody. It's just there's a lot of people in the electorate who vote, but they don't really have the cognitive capacity to understand what is going on. It's not ignorance, but it's a limitation. And then you have just what I would call bad people. And I know that good, bad is a very rudimentary and unsophisticated way to categorize. But what I mean by bad people is it's not people who are cognitively limited. It's not people who are ignorant to the facts. It's people who understand exactly what it is that Donald Trump is promising, and they like it, right? They like it because it's good for them personally, because of taxes, for example, or whatever. Those are the three categories. I've still not met anyone to this day who voted for Trump who doesn't fall into one of those three categories. And I will completely concede to you that there are people on the left, at least with two of those three categories, that we could identify as well. Prove me wrong. I'm open to having my mind changed. We've got a great bonus show for you today. We will talk about the repositioning of coalition forces thanks to Donald Trump's Iran belligerence. We will talk about CNBC using the wrong pictures on screen for presidential candidates Andrew Yang and Tulsi Gabbard. And we will also talk about kids who have been shot after throwing snowballs at passing cars. This reminds me of something former producer Lewis and I used to do. All of those stories and more on today's bonus show. Get instant access by signing up at joinpakman.com. I'll
All
speak
right,
to
so
you
there you
then.
have it. So how great was that? And it's so interesting how David breaks it down. Well, of course, anyone who's in a cult doesn't know, like knowing that you're in a cult is the antidote to a cult. So that was interesting how he broke it down. So yeah, ignorant people, people who were cognitively limited, and then there were bad people. I know a guy who says, I know Trump's evil, but hey, I like the tax cut. So there you go. Good friends, good books, and a sleepy conscience, peace, love, and understanding here on Tabor Talk.